let's start with some updates on Somali, because I want to get this up there clear, because I think a lot of people are still not like they didn't catch up with the fact that the trial was delayed. So I want to talk about that and also talk about the fact that it may be delayed longer. And I was talking with two people. One of them gave me a single comment on this. The other one gave me some other thoughts. But we have a delay from April 9th to March 16th. So obviously, we're in the same courthouse for Somali's trial, which is the Western District Courthouse, from the same courtroom, which is 406, same judge, same prosecutor, which, by the way, the prosecutor in the Western District is not Zhang Aryang. It is, in fact, a different prosecutor. However, Zhang Aryang was in the Eastern District. She's the one that brought a lot of these related crimes, the deepfakes, the CSH, and I need to be very careful on what I say with that because we're still early in the stream. So even talking about that dark subject will get us in trouble with the algorithm. So we'll just say CSH. If you don't know what that stands for, you can look at my other streams and kind of figure that out. And of course, the obstruction of business case, which is coming from Lotte World. So some people have said to me that Ramsey's case, while it's currently delayed to May 16th, could plausibly be bounced once again. And I warned you guys that this process could take a year. It could take 2 years. That is entirely possible depending on how they play it. And also the court, they can slowball this. They can bring in witnesses even just for sentencing. So they can push this thing out very slowly. They have no impetus, no reason to speed this up and get him out of there or get the ruling quick. They can just keep him. And that's totally fine. He's getting his due process. So people have actually been mentioning to me that he may get this may get pushed even further. So we could see this May 16th date even move to June or July or even further. And there's a couple reasons for that. And there's more than this, but these are ones that kind of stand out and I wanted to talk about here today with you guys. The first is that there is additional evidence being submitted on the new charges. I mean, there's additional evidence that we have submitted that the Somali conviction team has submitted. But obviously there's plans to submit more evidence regarding the new charges, right? Lotte World, the CSH, you guys know what that means, as well as the deepfakes, right? And there is video literally of Ramsey Khalid Ismail, Johnny Somali, saying he is purely trying to silence the female victim. Of course, the female Korean streamer, they are trying to silence her. And beyond that, the other thing is he positioned himself as her boyfriend. He said, "This is my girlfriend. Look, this is my girlfriend." So he didn't just position himself and show a random deepfake. He actually made a false statement. Yeah, this is a person I'm dating. I'm in a romantic or relationship with this woman, and put that out there for the world to see. And like I said, that would be very embarrassing. That would cause people to be embarrassed, ashamed. That would cause a reaction from the audience, which is how that is judged. When you look at the deepfakes, the law turns on people's reaction to it. And the reaction is not good. The reaction of any woman. Once again, this isn't just about Johnny Somali. This is about broader in Korea. There's a big problem with deepfakes being made of people and then people saying, "Hey, this is my girlfriend. This is my wife. This is my mistress. This is whatever," right? Or look, I'm hooking up with this girl. The danger is if you allow these deepfakes to propagate, people are going to continue to do it. Copycats will happen. And if you don't cut it out at the root, it does propagate. So I think that despite the fact that some people think this is harsh, I think this is absolutely necessary to prevent people from going down this road, because once you start down that deepfake road, it really doesn't stop. And we have cases like the Nth Room, et cetera, where people create further and further stuff that is sexual in nature, that is more adult in nature, even than what Johnny Somali showed, although under Korean law, kissing is a act, right? But that's going to lead to more and more propagation of this if it's not cut out in the bud, if it's not nipped in the bud. And I don't have a problem with that jurisprudence. I don't have a problem with that law. In fact, I'm happy if that deepfake law comes to other jurisdictions. I think that would actually stop that. We're going to have to come up with laws to handle that sort of stuff. And I think harsh laws are merited in these circumstances. Absolutely. So I think with the additional evidence that comes in, they're going to be struggling to, number one, go through that evidence, because the defense attorneys are going to have to go through that evidence. And then the number two is that we're going to have a panic from the defense. That kind of goes into number two here, a panic on the defense and representation issues. So here's what's happening is they're having to decide, how are we going to defend against this? What's our story? What's our angle? Right. And also, here's the very complicated thing. This public defender is totally blindsided. The Western District public defender is blindsided by this because he had no idea. He wasn't covering this. He wasn't in the Eastern District. This was supposed to have been nipped in the bud and stopped before indictment by the Eastern District, quote unquote, paid lawyer, but that lawyer failed. That lawyer failed to stop that indictment from going through. And as I've said, once something is officially indicted, once it's on the court record, it's really not coming off. We don't have much history talking to people or experience with a indictment coming off and being removed or dropped. Now, a prosecutor can choose to recommend a lighter sentence, even if there was a lot of cooperation, if the person was friendly, if they were apologetic. But this is not that scenario. This is Johnny Somali. He has been unapologetic. He has been unashamed. He says, I don't care. And he says, I'm going to bring this B word down. That's what he said about the female victim. And that is absolutely an aggravating factor under Korean law. And I think they're going to have to consider that. And the public defender has no idea on the strategy on how to do this. They haven't had that little romantic defense meeting that they had with the paid lawyer. In fact, I'm not even sure the public defender is going to give them the time of day. Because remember, there's a difference between a paid lawyer and a public defender. A public defender does not have to give you unlimited time. A public defender does not have to review your stuff all day. They have to give you a certain amount of consideration, and that's it. They don't have to sit with you for hours and hours. They don't have to pour over this in an unlimited fashion. They have multiple clients they have to handle, and you're just one of them. And one of the issues is I don't think Johnny has enough money to pay this attorney from the Eastern District to represent him in the West and spend all that time in court and all that time catching up. I think there's monetary issues, and that's going to become a huge mess. So I can see them saying, hey, look, we're going to have to sort this out. And that's going to take more than a month to sort out that issue. And I think the lawyers themselves may recommend to delay it yet again. So we're going to see as we get closer to May. I expect a couple days before we might even get a delay again. But once again, I'm telling you what's on the court records as of tonight. It is May 16th. That's the next day. Once again, I know a lot of people were asking, well, what about April 9th? No, that was completely moved. That date was completely moved. And then last, this is the most interesting one to me. I think one of the other things is decision to challenge. And I can see a realistic scenario where Johnny Somali pleads guilty to everything but the deepfakes and possibly the CSH charge. Obviously, he's going to want to try to fight that if it comes down. I think that's pretty reasonable. So if the CSH comes in as a separate charge, not included as part of obstruction, but a separate actual charge, I think that is something he may try to plead not guilty to. And the deepfakes, I think in a very reasonable scenario, he may try to fight that. He did say he was going to fight that. Now, I don't believe much that comes out of Ramsey Khalidis Miles' mouth, but if he decides to plead not guilty, we're in for a longer trial. So if he wants to try to fight that specific charge and just go for the obstruction, we can do that. Then we're talking about another year, right? Then we're pushing this into 2026 very reasonably, which would be fun. So Ramsey is in a kind of a catch-22. He can plead guilty to the deepfake and hope that he's been nice and cooperative and lovely and said beautiful things about the court, so they sentence him lightly, or he can plead not guilty and try to fight it and be here for another year. So it decides, which do you want? Which do you want, Ramsey? Do you want to be here for another year fighting this case, or do you want to plead guilty and hope that you've been a good boy? We will see about that.